Chris and I are headed out in the side-by-side today, and we're gonna go see what we can find. We're looking for berries, and we're looking for grouse since grouse season just came in. We're hoping that we can find something to harvest.
Sit in the seat.
We ended up finding a huge patch of raspberries, and just like on our property, they're not producing raspberries. So what I'm going to do is clip a bunch of these leaves for tea, and what I'm looking for is these fresh, young looking leaves on the raspberries because they are the sweetest and have the most antioxidants. A couple of these raspberries down in here are actually growing some berries. The entire patch down that way didn't have any berries on them, just like our ones at home. These have quite a bit of buds on them, and there's actually some red berries. This one's got a really nice berry on it. I mean, they're not much smaller than the cloudberries.
Come on, Marty, and ready.
He's trying to steal the raspberries out of my hand. Like I picked them for him. Because there's so many berries back, even going back that way. We found another really nice patch of raspberries. This field here is absolutely loaded with them. And I already harvested a bunch of leaves. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take a little walk back here, and we're going to see if we can find some grouse. Finale, come on. Good boy. I guess he decided that he's going to go back to sleep because we got back in the side-by-side. Unfortunately, it started pouring down rain on us, so we had to stop for a minute and close up our windows, and it's messing up our berry picking and our grouse hunting a little bit. We're probably going to go a little further, see if it lightens up a little bit, but if not, I guess we're going to head on back. It is insanely muddy out here with the pouring down rain, and unfortunately some of the berry bushes that we found did not have any berries on them, and we haven't seen any grouse because they're not in the rain. So we're going to start making our way back. We're quite a ways back here, so we have a lot of ground to cover to get back home. Doesn't look like it's raining anymore.
It's slowing down. The trails are still flooded.
Golly, you're so muddy. Unfortunately, we didn't see any grouse, and the only berries we saw were the raspberries that we picked and some of the raspberry leaves that we harvested. We did see a ton of blueberry bushes with no blueberries on them. And then it started to pour down rain on us and we got quite muddy. So what's funny is it doesn't look like it's rained here at all. Tomorrow it's supposed to be nice and sunny and I have some things in the garden that I need to harvest, so I'll take you along with me. I'm in the garden today and I have a little bit of harvesting to do, but I wanted to bring you along with me to show you how the garden's been doing. We'll start over here with the peas. I planted sugar anns on this half of the garden and sugar snap peas on this half of the garden. They're definitely doing better than last year. They're a bit taller, but it looks like their production is still just about as slow as it was last year. I believe we got sugar snap peas around the end of August last year, and these are just started flowering about 2 weeks ago. We have a couple of pods down on the sugar snap peas. Next year, I will probably not plant them in this bed. This side of the bed has a lot more shade throughout the day than this side, which means these plants are a lot bushier, a lot taller, and starting to produce the pea pods, whereas this side is not. I know that they like the cooler weather, but it seems as though the cool weather here just kind of really slows down production, and I think that they will speed up and produce pea pods sooner in the season for us. Our growing season is super short as it is, so I really want to speed up that process. So I think next year I'll put them in a raised bed inside a greenhouse and see how they do. The garlic is doing really well. It looks like just about all of the garlic that I planted is coming up. I do think next year I'm going to plant probably 4 times to 5 times as much garlic as I did. So what I'm doing today is I'm going to harvest all of the garlic scapes. I don't want this going to flower because I want the remainder of the season to be focused on growing the bulb. Last year I planted potatoes in this garden bed and they did terrible. I got 1 golf ball sized potato, and I don't know if it's just because we had a really big lack of sun last year or it rained so much, or if it's because I sliced this potato and it just didn't do well. When I dug around through here trying to find all of those slices of potatoes, I thought I got them all out. But when the garlic started to come up this year, so did some potatoes from last year. So they overwintered and started growing. I'm hoping that they really didn't affect the garlic too bad. I didn't realize that they were going to, 1, still be in there because I thought I pulled them all out, and 2, I didn't know that they were going to grow or overwinter. So I'm interested to see how they do. They are russet potatoes. They're a different variety of russet than what I planted this year, but let's go see how those potatoes are doing. I'm really happy with how the potatoes are turning out. They look really good. I did notice one thing though, that the first time it dropped below 50 degrees Fahrenheit at night about a month ago, the leaves did start to turn a little yellow and they're not staying as deep of a green as they were in June when we were getting quite a bit of sun. So I hope that really doesn't affect the yield of the potatoes. They seem to be doing really well, but I think that we'll get a pretty decent yield. I really didn't do that many potatoes this year. I think next year I'll probably double or triple the amount that we do, but they look to be doing really well. Something that I found really interesting that I wanted to show you was the difference in starting from seed outside versus from starting from seed a little earlier inside the RV. And this garden bed is a really good example of that. It was kind of a test run for me. I planted a bunch of different seeds in here for some different things, and really only 2 things are coming up in here. One is spinach, which as you can see, this one's about 6 inches tall, this one's about 3 inches tall, and it's already bolting, so clearly spinach does not do well, even though it's a cool weather crop, to be planted from seed outside. And the second one is these marigolds. These are about 2 inches tall, and I want to show you in the greenhouse what they look like being started about 2 weeks sooner in the RV and being in a greenhouse, and what it really can do for the plants here, just because it stays so chilly here. The last stop I wanted to make in this garden was over here with our onions, and I planted 4 total rows of onions, and some are not doing well at all and others are doing okay. However, unfortunately, I don't think we're going to have a yield of onions this year. Even though some of these are looking pretty good, I think that I need to start them even earlier than what I did this year. I started them at the end of February, early March, and I think I'm going to start them in January next year, and if we don't get a yield next year, I'll probably be done with planting onions. Unfortunately, I just don't think we have enough growing season left to get a yield from these this year. This is our smaller greenhouse, the one that we put up last year with our raised beds. And as you can see, it's an absolute jungle in here. It's doing so well. It gets a lot of sunlight and a lot of heat. And just as a comparison from the marigolds that I started from seed in the garden that were about 2 inches tall, this is also a marigold and it's almost as tall as me. And for reference, I'm 5 feet tall. So I'd say that's about 4.5 feet tall. That's crazy how much it grows in here with how warm it is. This greenhouse here is kind of a hodgepodge of plants. I have all of my nasardiums in here. I have marigolds, calendula, chamomile, some herbs. I have a lot of basil. The basil's exploding in here. I have all of the tomato plants that were really doing horrible. I didn't really have any hope for them to thrive, but they're actually doing pretty well, and a couple of them have tomatoes on them. And I also have the cucumbers in here, so let's go in and take a look. This marigold is so heavy that it couldn't even hold itself up anymore. I didn't even know that they could do that, but this thing is absolutely massive. I'd say this is about 4.5 feet tall as well with the flowers on it. This is our herb garden, and if you remember when I planted everything, it was kind of a little bit of a hodgepodge of things. The chamomile in here is doing really well. I'm going to harvest some of that today and I would dry it for tea. The calendula in this bed is also doing really well. I absolutely love flower gardens, and this was really a good opportunity for me to do some flowers that were beneficial for the plants in here in terms of getting rid of bugs and slugs and stuff like that. So I really wanted to plant some in here for the tomatoes and the cucumbers. And some of the things that aren't doing too well, the oregano and the rosemary, I will probably do those in buckets next year. I think that the calendula, the marigolds, and the chamomile just kind of exploded in here and overtook the entire garden, so they really couldn't get a lot of space for themselves. So next year I'll do something a little different with those. So let's go check out these cucumbers. Last year, when I put the cucumbers out, they died within 24 hours. The leaves just shriveled up and they withered away to nothing. This year, the cucumbers are doing so well. Again, they're taller than me, and I'm really hopeful that we'll get cucumbers this year to pickle. I have a couple of little tiny cucumbers coming in. These are Boston pickling cucumbers, and they seem to be doing pretty well. They were a Denali brand Alaska specific seed, so they're a little more cold tolerant. I definitely think that they needed the greenhouse. I just hope that August can give us some more warm weather so I can get some cucumbers this year. And the marigolds are all a variety, so they were all variety packs. I think it gave it a really nice pop of color in here. Over here are all of the tomatoes that I didn't think were worth keeping, but I planted them anyway. They were broken down the stems, or they just were really leggy when I brought them out here. And they're actually doing pretty well. They do look a little wilted. It's been getting down in the mid 40s at night, and it's just a little too chilly for them. However, as bad as they looked, we do have some tomatoes growing on these plants. There's one in here specifically that is doing pretty well. So I do hope to get some tomatoes in here, and there's only about 10 plants in here, so they're really bushy. I know we have a lot of blooms on them. Over here I have basil, and we've been enjoying fresh basil in a lot of our dishes here recently, and I just can't keep up with it. It is starting to bolt a little bit. That's okay. We're going to harvest this soon and probably dry it so we have basil throughout the year. But I mostly just planted basil in here because it's a really good bug repellent for the tomatoes. Before we head over to the other greenhouses, I do want to harvest some of this chamomile. We do like tea and we love herbal tea, so I grew the chamomile specifically for that. I think next year I'll do a lot more. But for now, I'm going to harvest all of this so that way we can dry it.
So you just dry the whole flower?
Yep. There's a bug on that one. Oh, there. Oh. Coming, Nelly. Whew, the amount of heat coming out of here. Shoo.
I'm sure the peppers love it.
Whew, it's like 90 degrees in here.
Probably gonna
It smells like a pure pepper in here. There's like 8 peppers on this plant.
And they're the smallest ones.
They're the smallest
Which
ones,
is
and
really
there's like
strange.
8 peppers on it. Oh my gosh, these are so big. I should have come out and harvested these like 3 days ago. That's a nice looking pepper. I mean, it's a little funky right here, but
That's because it was laying on the ground.
I know. See?
Oh yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah, so there's 8 total peppers on this tiny little plant. That's a nice looking pepper too, isn't it?
Yeah.
I would love to show a comparison because I got I got 2 peppers last year. I got a banana pepper and a cayenne pepper. And my banana pepper was about this big.
Yeah.
And my cayenne pepper was even smaller. It was about, I don't even know, what was it, like a half an inch?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
It was really small. So they did not do well last year. I am super happy already.
I really think if it just rained a little less, a little bit more sunshine, like even if it was like half the rain of what it's been, or I guess I should say half of the cloudy days that it has been this last couple months, like we would have probably yielded double that already.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just this plant is going to, as long as it can stay sunny just another couple of weeks, is going to produce 6 more peppers. This one has 6 more peppers on it, so this one has 8 peppers total. The pepper's literally growing up like this. It's funny. I mean, like, if you look at all these little buds, this thing could produce like 30 peppers. I planted this from seed when we put the peppers in here. So it's not really had that much time. It's not to flower yet, but it's pretty big. The jalapeno plants look really good. They're tall, they're bushy, but they're just not producing jalapenos. We've only harvested a couple this year, and right now there's a couple with flowers on them. There's a couple with like some teeny tiny peppers on them, but unfortunately, if they don't produce by the end of the growing season, we probably won't plant them again next year because they didn't produce last year and they're not producing this year, which is a shame. We do love jalapenos, but it is what it is. The other peppers are producing well, so I think we'll plant more of those next year. I did want to show you this little teeny tiny jalapeno. It's just got a really funny shape. I think it's hilarious. You see it?
Yeah.
There's a jalapeno. It's a really fat one, but it's still, it's like maybe
They just need more time.
they just need,
I don't know if they're gonna have the time they need, but
yeah, unfortunately.
I mean,
Again,
like,
if
they're growing like little trees, like they have nice healthy stems this year. Last year they didn't get much more than like 6 or 7 inches tall. They were
they were really terrible last year. But these aren't producing fruit, so maybe
might be a waste of time.
yeah, as good as they, I mean, they look good. Like they look like they should be producing. And they all have like these little buds on them.
The only thing different we could do with them is try and bring some into the house once it's finished and overwinter them.
Yeah.
For the next year.
Yeah, we could try that so that way it's just like the same plants already have a nice head start.
Yeah.
All of these over here are Pacific hybrid, and something was eating some of my leaves in here.
Yeah.
Not doing well, but
yeah.
This one is, oh my goodness, this one has a ton of little peppers on it.
Yeah.
It's not as big as I would want. It's a nice looking pepper.
Here that I can see has some that are going to be ready here in a couple weeks maybe.
Yeah, I want to give them just a little more time to like get bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think this dirt and fertilizer and everything made a big difference as well. Like these raised beds, they warm up and they stay warm. Even at night when the temperature drops down, to about, I think last night it got down to 42 degrees. And these beds, the dirt stays really warm in here. So I think that that helps, having the beds so large. It just helps insulate everything. This one's like real long.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I think that the California bell peppers or the California wander peppers are just not a good thing to plant here either. I have one tiny little pepper here, and we'll see if it produces more by the end of the growing season. I don't think it will. So I think next year we're definitely going to plant probably this whole greenhouse full of the Ace hybrid and the Pacific hybrid, because they've been doing really well.
It sounds like the goats are into something.
It does sound like the goats are into something. Maybe we should go check on them real quick.
It sounds like metal falling.
Yeah.
Like
I wonder if they're on top of the chicken.
Roof?
I wonder if they jumped on top of the chicken coop.
I don't know.
All right, well, there's no more bell peppers to harvest, so we're going to go make sure the goats aren't getting into anything that they're not supposed to, and then we're going to head over to the tomatoes.
There's the culprit. They knocked over the old charcoal grill.
What are you fools doing? What are you doing? Are you knocking over here?
Were you on top of the charcoal grill? These are the most efficient lawnmowers ever.
I mean, they literally made up a really nice cat factory.
Where are you going? You didn't finish mowing.
I can already feel the heat seeping out of this door.
I'm sure the tomatoes love it.
Whew. That's gonna steam up as soon as you try and walk in here.
Wow, they need watered again already.
Yeah, they do. Whew, it is like...
These ones on the right definitely got a lot of, oh no.
Oh no.
They're super steamed.
Super steamy.
The ones on the right got very wilty since last night, probably because it was down to 42. It was down to
42 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, it was super cold. And every time we've come out here so far and we've noticed that it's dropped below 50 degrees at night, the next day we come out to either water or check on the plants and the leaves look really wilted. So hopefully in the next couple days it'll stay sunny and they'll perk up a little bit more. But they are producing a lot of tomatoes. I feel like this greenhouse is warmer than the pepper one. I don't know if it's more plants.
Maybe.
But like, look at the marigolds in this one. They're all really tall and they're blooming. There are so many tomatoes in here. Everything is producing tomatoes. Everything has a lot of blooms on it. And again, just like with the peppers, I think that the tall beds are really holding in a lot of heat and insulating it in here. Some of the cold days have made a little bit of the leaves wilt, but I'm going to show you just how many tomatoes we have. I'm super excited. I think we're going to have quite a bit to can. Unfortunately, here with our very short growing season, we don't typically get red tomatoes. We have to harvest them when they're green, but we do have a couple of red ones. But I just want to show you how many tomatoes we're getting. Look at all these tomatoes. There's so many in here. We're gonna have so many tomatoes. I just hope that it can stay warm just a little bit longer, just so we can harvest all of these. If not, we're gonna be getting a lot of tiny tomatoes. This one's starting to turn red. I'm super excited about that. Last year, I don't think we had any that turned red on the vine. And I mean, just one of these plants is already doing better than all of our tomatoes did last year combined.
It's hiding.
Looks like it's kind of got some
tiny
marks on it. Yeah, it's a little dry, but it's red. We didn't get any of those last year, so that's exciting. That one's starting to turn red, that big one at the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
It's so heavy, it's not even like growing up on the vine anymore.
Little pumpkins.
Pumpkins. This plant we accidentally broke off, and it was down to like absolutely nothing, down to the dirt, and it still grew. It has a ton of little flowers on it, But look how many tomatoes are on this plant between these two that broke off. There's so many tomatoes on there.
That's crazy. I thought that plant was a goner.
For some reason, this corner is not doing as well as all of the rest of this, but I still think we're going to have a pretty good tomato yield. Overall, we are really happy with these greenhouses so far and how well the plants are doing inside of them. There are a couple of changes that we might make in the future. We did have a lot of suggestions for artificial light and heat, and we have thought about that. We are off-grid, so we have to justify whether or not the cost is going to be worth the yield in terms of plants and if it's going to be efficient enough to do. And because we are off-grid, we can't just put electric heaters in these. There will have to be heating oil or another type of fuel, and that does add up pretty quickly when having to do that. It's also not as easy as what it may seem to have electric over here because one, we're really far away from our current setup, and two, it would really just need its own solar array and set up over here, and that's a lot easier said than done. We are in South Central Alaska. We are on the southern end of the Kenai Peninsula, and our weather here is vastly different than where a lot of gardeners up, say, in the Matsu Valley are growing, where they get the really big produce. The interior in general is much different than the coast. They get much warmer temperatures than we do. I think the warmest we've had this year is like maybe 3 days of 70°F. Everything else has been in the mid 60s to mid 50s all summer long.
Between the outdoor garden and all of the greenhouses, it's taking roughly about 200 gallons a week. I'm burning up this whole tank in roughly about a week's time, depending on the temperature. But what we did for a temporary water setup for this is we are pumping from down our spring straight up into this. And once this is filled, we have it hooked up with a hose here to just a 12-volt water pump. And this is set up to just turn on with a water valve to feed our hose. And it's powered by just a battery. It's just a lithium battery in a waterproof container. And it has a little cheap solar controller that's hooked to a solar panel. It's not getting any solar right now. I think the sun's behind us. But this has been working out really well for us. This is kind of like one of those expensive power banks. I guess they call them solar generators or something, except we just put it together ourselves and it's a lot cheaper that way. And it just has plugs on the outside for anything 12 volt to plug into, as well as it has a port for USB plugs. I guess we'll get our water on and water our greenhouse.
Watering the garden and the greenhouse takes a lot more time than either of us anticipated. And so I think next year we're going to look into creating a drip irrigation system. Where we came from in Pennsylvania, a lot of the Amish greenhouses, when we would go to get plant starts and flowers, would have drip irrigation systems that work super efficiently. And I think we're going to try and recreate that so that way it saves us a lot of time watering the plants. It'll just be a quick turn on the irrigation system, leave it running for a little while, everything will get watered automatically, and then we can turn it off when we're done. The bugs ate that one too. It has been really warm in here today.
They're hiding under this tree.
Stinky, why are you over here? Don't lick my camera. Find needles in your hair. No blart.
I have a flashlight. Oh, she's having another one. Oh my god. Where's the other one? Is it under her?
It must be. She's crushing it.
Girl, you're crushing your baby.
Oh my goodness.
Look at this little guy. He was getting smushed under her.
Oh. You're
It's
okay,
okay,
Rosie.
Rosie. He is like all black goat. Stay in here. It's a girl. It's a baby girl. Little girl. We're gonna have to separate them. I could hear this one and it was going, ee! I was like, what is that?
Well, that was an interesting surprise for the evening.
Yeah.
She's definitely having another.
You're alright. You're alright, girl. You almost got it. Good girl.
Good girl. Do you need me to
Check out this little baby Henry.
Oh.
Oh. Isn't that cool?
Little goat. Oh my goodness.
Good girl,
it's
Rosie.
so tiny.
Good girl, Rosie. Oh. This one's trying to walk already. Look at him.
It's okay, Rosie. Oh, she's going to have another one.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, can move this one.
Oh.
Oh.
Oh my goodness, triplets.
Oh. Oh my goodness. Good girl, Rosie. The other one's still trying to breathe.
That is crazy, isn't it? That is so neat. Oh. At least that one's bleeding and that one's sitting up. Didn't know you were into all this, did you? Look like blart babies.
Oh, absolutely. They are 100%. They are 100% blart babies.
This one's a little boy.
That one's a boy.
Yeah. For some reason. Aww. Listen to him. Aww. That's a little boy. That's another little boy.
Oh no, we got two boys and a girl.
You were supposed to be a little girl. Oh, his eyes are open.
Oh.
You're another little blart. He's got blart's ears.
It does. So we had a bit of a surprise this evening. We have guests here. Chris could hear just this tiny little noise and couldn't figure out what it was. He opened the door to let the goats out, and Miss Rosie here had given birth to one of her little babies here. We got these goats back in April. Their gestation is 5 months, which means she was pregnant when we got her, so she would have had to have gotten pregnant in March. Nigerian dwarfs can get pregnant any time of the year. Right now, like the August-September range is their rut, so it's typical breeding season. So now we have to go and get a separate pen made for Rosie so that way she can take care of her babies without the other goats around. We did stop milking her about a month and a half, 2 months ago. We had only milked her for maybe about a month into having them.
She seemed like she was
She seemed like she was drying up a little bit, and I'm really glad that we did because you're supposed to stop milking them about 2 months before they give birth, and really glad we did. She was kind of giving us a little bit of a fuss, so we decided to wait until all of them were milking, which this will be good because then she'll be back in milk for a little while. We actually were speculating that she was pregnant because she was really fat, but she was really fat when we got her as well, and she eats so much, and she's kind of a little bit of a bully with food, and today she was acting a little odd. She didn't want to go out and graze with the rest of them. She stayed in here by herself, and Paul Blart kind of stayed with her for a lot of the day. He was kind of getting a little protective over her, which we thought was a little odd, and she usually hangs out around here, but she was really trying to stay around the pen today, so she knew it was coming.
Yeah.
We were prepared for it because we are planning to breed our goats, but we weren't prepared for it today.
No. Yeah, we thought that we had time.
But
no big deal.
No big deal. We'll make it happen.
We have an easy provision for these guys to give them a safe. So this is our chicken coop. We did add this door, I don't know, quite a bit ago. I don't even remember when I put this door on, but it's a good thing we did this because we can keep the baby goats in off to the right of where the chickens are at. So we're going to go in here and move some of the items out of there. That way nothing falls on the baby goats and they'll be away from the other goats. Oh, you know what I forgot? We got all those tools in here.
Yeah, well, all the tools I guess are gonna have to.
This is actually going to go outside. I'm going to put this on that.
Can you please leave, Paul Blart?
We picked close that door. Big stick.
You can't come in here.
In here.
Oh, an ermine?
Ermine, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't gotten into our chickens, but...
Well, they can't get in the chickens. That's really...
Definitely not what I was expecting for my evening.
We were just eating halibut tacos and
Getting
ready to start a campfire and roast some marshmallows with our friends and family, and here come the goats. Little baby goats squealing.
We're definitely gonna have to go out and get more straw tomorrow.
Yeah. Is that too high?
That's probably good for her.
Bet you never seen goats living in a log cabin before.
I mean, I surely haven't. Has she passed afterbirth yet, fully?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. She might move then.
Come on.
Oh, you got all three of them? Come on,
Yeah.
Rosie.
Come on, Rosie.
Come on, girly.
Come on.
I know you don't want to move.
Come on.
Come on, girly.
They're all right.
Good girl. Good girl.
You got sat on twice. But you look like you're okay.
Was you wagging your little tail? All right, let's try milking again. Oh, there we go.
Oh, she find it?
Got her. Oh, you fell off.
Is she trying again?
She's trying, but she like isn't strong enough to stay up there. Like these two are standing.
She's trying again.
Oh.
Is she on it?
Yep, she's on it.
Oh, good. So
Good,
she
good.
knows what it is now.
Well, it seems like everything's been successful. They've all successfully eaten.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Rosie, we'll leave you alone for a little bit.
Yeah, I think she's
She's got water.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll check on her in a little bit. Good morning. We're in the old cabin this morning, and Rosie is in this room, and we're going to go check on the babies. They are a little over a day old now, and we want to see how they're doing. Rosie, what are you doing over here? Are you laying at your hay?
She heard you talking probably.
Are you laying at your hay? What are you doing, girly? Hi. How are you doing? Hi. Hi. Oh, you just curious? Are you just curious, little things? This one's super spunky and curious about everything.
Mm-hmm.
You look like a mini Rosie.
Hi there.
Are you a mini Paul Blart? Are you a mini Paul Blart? Oh,
Is she milking
she's
her
milking her. Yeah.
Oh my. Mm-hmm.
Good girl. My goodness. Yeah, we just like the face scratches so much. Yeah. Oh, good girl. This little thing? Yeah. You're the runt. You're the runt. We'll call you Nugget because you're the runt. All three babies are looking healthy and spunky. And especially this one. This one is Mr. Curious. He is just into everything already. Aren't you? You're into everything already.
Wants to play.
You just want to play? You just want to play? We were really worried about the little girl the first day. She was very slow moving, and she was the last one to start eating. She was the last one to stand up. And so we checked on them a bunch of times throughout the first night and just made sure that they were all milking and everything. And she is just as spunky and doing just as well as her brothers. Yeah.
He's like, hey. He's like, hey, reach down and pet me.
Hold me. Do something. Oh, well, hi. But I don't think you want in the chicken coop, buddy. What do you think of those chickens in there?
doesn't like laying on the hay for some reason.
She doesn't. Oh, now we're gonna stand on Mom?
My goodness.
Are we all gonna stand on Mom?
Play toy.
Oh, you made a bed.
You look like a little donkey right now.
He does look like a little donkey, actually.
He's like, hey, play with me. Play with me, little sister. He's probably trying to get her to get up so he can eat.
She's out. Out like a light. We're out today walking around our property. It's a pretty windy day, but it's still fairly warm out. We are out looking for berries today. So right now we are in our marshy area down by our creek, and we have a lot of cloudberries that are starting to come up. Cloudberries or salmon berries, they're called different things throughout the state. And last year we really wanted to try them out. We tried a couple of them, and then we got a lot of rain and it kind of drowned all of the berries and it knocked them off the bushes and we didn't get any. So this year we are hoping to get quite a few cloudberries. We're also going to see what other kind of berries we have. We have seen a lot of watermelon berries come in, and we're hoping to get some currants and blueberries. They don't look as good as they did last year, but we'll see what we can find today. That is a cloudberry, and it looks nice and ripe. So we're going to see how many of these we can find. There's only one per plant, or one per stem, so there's not a lot of them, but I think this bottom's going to be filled with them.
I got one. There's a couple here, but they don't look right. Some of them blend in really well.
Yeah, they do. We have a lot of these patches like this where they are just full of the plants that grow the cloudberries. However, they don't have berries on them. And what I read was that these take 7 years to germinate underground, and then they take up to year 10 to produce a fruit. And they only produce fruit once in their lifetime. That was an article I read. If that's true, that means we have a ton of these that may have already produced fruit, or that may still produce fruit in the next several years. But we have come across a ton of these patches where there's just probably close to 1 million of these little leaves, just no fruit. So we'll keep looking. They love like this mossy area right under these trees. There's a lot of crowberries mixed in here as well. So we'll keep trudging around and see what we can find. We have to be really careful in this area. There's a lot of places where you'll be stepping on solid ground, and the next time your next step, you're stepping in a foot of creek water. So got to be pretty careful, so it's kind of slow going. Do you see how many are over there? Let's go over there and get those. There's a couple more right here, but they're not quite right. There's like a bunch right here too.
No, I mean like catching them just in time before they fall off.
Oh yeah. So there's a couple right here that aren't quite right, but I feel like there's a lot right here, except it's still not a lot.
Yeah. You walked straight past it.
I did?
Yeah.
Oh, there's one. Going under under the tree. Every once in a while, I'm afraid my boot's gonna come off. The blueberries right?
I don't know, there's a few. But I don't know if they're actually right.
This plant gave us a lot last year.
It's good, but it's a little sour still. Not quite ripe.
Not quite ready to pick. Try one. Yum.
Not very many of them yet either.
They need like another week or two of like really good sun.
I don't think they're gonna get it. I think we need to head that way or like across.
Some cranberries right here.
Oh yeah.
Watermelon berries right here. Some nice looking ones. We finally found a blueberry bush with a load of blueberries. Bilberries, whatever you want to call them. We're calling them blueberries. They taste amazing. They're actually ripe. We haven't found too many ripe ones yet, so Chris and I are going to work on picking some of this bush, and it looks like there might be some more blueberries over that way, so we're going to try and pick those too. Oh yeah, that's way better than those other ones. Something I'm super excited about this year is the amount of lingonberries or low bush cranberries that we have. Last year we hardly saw any, so we weren't able to harvest them, as well as high bush cranberries. These aren't to be confused with bunchberries. We do have a lot of those too. That's this little plant, but these are the lingonberries, and they make a really good jam as well as cranberry sauce. We do have to wait a little bit to pick these. I believe you want to wait till after the first frost. That's what you want to do with high bush cranberries. So we'll wait until then to go and pick all these. Over here is the high bush cranberries. We have a bunch of these on the property. Again, last year they hardly grew at all, but I'm really excited to have a bunch of cranberries this year. These right here are red currants, and last year we were able to pick quite a bit of these, and they made awesome jelly. They're full of pectin, so you don't have to actually add pectin into your jam. And we really wanted to get a bunch more of these this year because we just really loved them last year. But unfortunately, we've only found like 3 or 4 small plants with only a couple of currants on them, so I don't think we're gonna pick them unless we can find a lot more of these plants on the property. We do have toxic plants and toxic berries here in Alaska, and one of them is this monk's hood. And it grows in a lot of meadowy areas. This is kind of back in a marshy area, but it grows a lot in between some blueberries and stuff like that, and it is highly toxic if it gets into your bloodstream, so we aren't going to be touching that at all.
The date on the wood says 1929.
No, it doesn't.
This is where all the prospectors came to dig for gold in this little hole.
Oh my gosh.
We came across this old thing last year when we were walking around the property getting berries, and it's like a wooden framed box in the water. I don't know if this is a spring or if this is like their bathtub. Maybe this was supposed to be a spring box. I don't know how they kept it clean, but maybe it used to have a roof over it or something. It's kind of interesting. Oh, it's been here a long time. Oh wow, look how good condition those boards are still in under there. The farther to the bottom, the better the shape they're in.
That doesn't make any sense.
Still so soft.
Like that part
I'd
of it.
like it to drain out so that we don't
Fall in it. Oh, now you're about to slide in it.
Almost.
And that's pretty deep.
Yeah. Oh, it's deeper out there.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
What would you say that board is? Like 3.5 feet? Yeah.
Roughly 3. We had found a second one of these last year as well, but it was much smaller than this one, probably about a quarter of the size. Maybe we'll come across it again, I don't know. Maybe this is where Bigfoot comes to take a bath.
Oh yeah.
This is his bathtub that he made out here.
Definitely Bigfoot. Another berry that we have quite a few of on our property are watermelon berries, and Chris and I really like these. They're not very sweet, they have a slight hint of watermelon, but we loved our watermelon berry jam that we made last year. Hopefully we get enough watermelon berries to make jam this year. Unfortunately, we didn't get nearly as many berries as we did last year. I think last year we filled up almost an entire one of these and a second one of these, and we had about 10 to 13 pounds of berries. This year we didn't get too many. We had a lot of watermelon berries that the stalks were there, but there were no berries, or they had very few or really tiny berries, so we just left those. And we have a ton of blueberry bushes on our property, and only one of them had produced blueberries. The other ones were either really small and unripe or aren't producing any berries at all. And then the cloudberries, we really thought that we were going to hit the jackpot with those. There are a ton of those all along the marsh, but only very few of those were producing berries. So we're going to head on back, take these back, and process what we have. This is the smaller spring box thing that Chris was just talking about when we were at the bigger one. And we came across this last year as well. And luckily we came across it in the spring. It would have been really unfortunate to come across it when we were in the snow and fall in it. This one's a lot smaller, probably about a quarter of the size of that bigger one. And it looks to be a little bit better built. It's holding up to the test of time a little better than the other one. But it's still really dirty. It's no longer free flowing of a spring. I think you can see back here where the spring was coming in from back here. It looks like there's like a crevice there, maybe where it was coming in. But,
or it could be just runoff from down the hill.
Or it could just be runoff and it's just degraded over the years. We do want to come in and eventually dismantle this one and the other one, so that way there's not a hole to fall in the winter when we're out here snowshoeing. One other thing that I wanted to gather is fireweed, and I want to try to make some fireweed jelly. I've heard it's really good, so I figured this year we'd give it a try. It's a little tedious to pick all the flowers off of there, but we've got just about as much as we need. We have a couple more plants to gather from, and then we're going to head on up. Yeah. Shake the whole plant so the bees don't come towards you. Oh, there's a bee on this one. One last stop I wanted to make before we head on up is at the raspberry bushes. And last year we didn't get any raspberries. We didn't even know where the raspberry bushes were. And this year we found a bunch because they shot up really well during the month of June when it was super sunny. So I marked a couple out because I thought that maybe I wanted to move them to a sunnier location. And I might still do that. I'm glad I marked a couple of them out because, as you can see, we are in mid-August and the raspberries are still green in there, and I don't think that we're going to get any berries before the end of the summer, unfortunately. Like I said, I have these tagged. I might still move them this fall and get them into a sunnier location. It's time to process all the berries and the fireweed. The first thing I'm going to be doing is making fireweed jelly, and then I'm going to take the watermelon berries and make jam. I made watermelon berry jam last year and it was amazing, so we're going to make that again this year. But first I'm going to get started with the fireweed jelly. So I already washed and boiled down the fireweed petals, and it makes this really pretty tea. And we're going to use this tea to make the jelly. Out of all of the fireweed petals that we harvested, we got approximately 7 cups of tea out of them. All I added was a little bit of lemon juice and some butter. We're gonna let that boil for a few minutes and we're gonna get our watermelon berry jam started. We got about 3 pounds of watermelon berries. We're going to add the entire fruit. We aren't straining anything out. Chris and I really like that thick consistency of jam or preserves, so we're adding the entire berry. One thing about watermelon berries is they have a lot of water in them already, so you really don't have to add a lot of water to this mixture. We ended up getting 12 jars of the fireweed jelly, and these are all half pints, so we got 6 pints total of fireweed jelly, and then we have 7 half pints of the watermelon berry jam. Last year we did try this recipe with honey, and neither of us were a fan of it, so this year I went with sugar, and we did have a couple of jars of the watermelon berry jam last year with sugar, and it was really good, so I'm glad that we have a little bit more to get us through the rest of the year. I do have one more thing inside that I have to make, and that is with our garlic scapes that we pulled out of the garden. The last recipe that I'm making is garlic salt, and what I did is I already cut up the garlic scapes, and I'm going to throw them in the food processor, add some kosher salt, and then put it on a baking sheet to dry. If you're interested in trying the garlic salt recipe or either of the jam or jelly recipes, I will post them in a link in the description. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video.